Bow down before my psycho power.
You guys know the 30th anniversary that just took place for Tekken, where Harada was there, Michael Murray was there, the main man, Sui was there. They were all, including the player base, which is there celebrating Tekken with the developers of Tekken. Also, before leaving, I just learned this. Harada did an interview with a news article that is kind of from that region, and they talked a little bit about Tekken. And I know you guys are going to be happy because what they talked about was a Tekken Tag Tournament 3. Now, of course, I know Tekken 8 just came out. Season 2 is on the table. Harada said he wants the next Tekken to release, if possible, the same time as the PlayStation 6, which is seeming like it's going to come out in 28, 29, maybe 30 at the latest. So that would give Tekken 8 like 4 years, 5 years going strong, and then the next Tekken release. Now, the first thing you have to talk about is what is the next Tekken? Is that even supposed to be a Tag 3? And for those of you who don't know, Tekken has established patterns. Like, for example, every 4 Tekken games, Paul Phoenix has his hair down. Another pattern is the tag tournaments. You do 1, 2, 3, and then you do Tekken Tag Tournament 1. You do 4, 5, 6, Tekken Tag Tournament 2. If the pattern continues, it would be 7, 8, 9, Tekken Tag Tournament 3. Tekken Tag Tournament 1 was pretty good. No one can say anything about that. Tekken Tag Tournament 2, however, is and was a disaster. Now, I love the game. I have to always say it. I would not be making videos right now if it wasn't for me buying Tekken Tag Tournament 2, playing that game every day, and falling in love. I love the sandbox elements of it. How does this connect to that? How does this work? How does that work? Combining characters and their movesets and figuring out what's possible. That was so much fun in Tekken Tag Tournament 2. But also, that was the game's fatal flaw. This is a competitive game. This is not a sandbox game. And in competition, when there's too many things to factor in like that, too many combinations of characters, too many characters, too much bloat, the movesets is ridiculous. It was just way too much for the tournament scene to digest. Also, in combination with all of the weird mechanics that they put, tag assault, tag crash, tag all of this. It was way too much. It was way too complicated. And as a result, the game ended up being the worst selling main Tekken game of all time, and is now given the title the Tekken game that almost killed the franchise. There's only 2 games that almost killed the franchise. That is Tekken 4, and then that is Tekken Tag Tournament 2. Now, I know you guys are not going to want to take my word on it, but let's look at a Event Hub's news article about this interview that Harada did, and let's see how they start their news article. Is Tekken Tag Tournament 3 in the cards? Harada talks challenges and the future of the iconic franchise spinoff. It's been 13 years since Tekken Tag Tournament 2 was released in September 14th, 2011. Though the game garnered a cult following from some of the most hardcore fans of the series, it was seen commercially as a failure that almost killed the franchise. If they were to tackle it again after that failure, I think the type of Tekken we would get would be vastly different as well. People ask for Tekken Tag Tournament 3 like it's going to be a copy of Tekken Tag Tournament 2, but since that game did so bad, they're going to change it up as much as possible. The roster will be far shorter. I think it will be on par with an average roster, 30 characters. Big rosters just destroy Tekken because the characters have way too many moves and it becomes too much to lab. That's when you start seeing tournament monsters get blown up by like random mechanics. That's not good. The news article continues and says, it's a great game for highly skilled players, but for those who can't play well, before even considering whether the game is fun, they feel like it's their fault that they can't play well, so they stop playing. What I will say is Tekken Tag Tournament 2 taught them that catering to the hardcore players is not the correct thing to do, which is why in Tekken 7 they started to go back in the other direction, cater to casuals. But they didn't fully commit to casuals. It was still like a hardcore game. Skill prevailed. But after the success of that game, the lesson they took away is, okay, catering to casuals worked, and that's the only reason this game did well, so let's do more of that. And in Tekken 8, that's what they're doing tenfold. catering to casuals. So I think Tekken 8 is currently repeating the mistakes of Tag 2, but in a different way. Tag 2 catered to hardcore players and failed. Tekken 8 is catering solely to casuals, and it's kind of failing. Hopefully, they'll be able to bring it back and find that middle ground that Tekken 7 was able to establish. Let's keep reading. Usually, players feel they would be able to play well, but then they can't keep losing. They get frustrated and call the game crappy. But because they are so close, they keep playing to get better. Once they get it, they'll find the game is pretty fun. Now, this is when the Game Reactor news article come into effect. So this is Harada's latest statement on Tekken Tag Tournament 2. So it's not like we planned to have Tekken series appear at a certain 12-year cycle or anything like that. It was just originally the first tag came out. Tekken was much more simpler franchise back then. Once again, simple. You talk about Tag 2 being complex. Much less characters than we have now on the roster. Once again, big roster. All the different type of gameplay systems. And all these things have been added since then, have made Tekken, the base game, much more complex. It would be quite difficult to make a new installment in the Tekken series that many people would be able to enjoy. Because you know the top tier players who are competing worldwide, who really spend so much time on Tekken, are really at the highest level player base, really loves that series. But people who are more casual, it's a more difficult game to pick up and play. There's more to this, but I want to stop and digest what he's saying here first. It's interesting that he is saying the difference between competition players and just casual players, because if you look at Tekken Tag Tournament 2, if you ask competition players, a lot of them dislike the game as well. It's like some of them like it, but a lot of them dislike it. Tekken Tag Tournament 2 was a hardcore player's dream, and yet they still rejected it. Isn't that crazy? And in a way that Harada is talking about how Tekken has gotten so complex over the years, adding tag into that would kind of destroy all of it. Like if you think about the heat system in a way is like tag. You're tagging yourself in with heat. Now look at how crazy the combo structure is with Yoshimitsu, with Dragunov. A lot of characters in this game could do crazy things when you're using heat to the fullest extent. If you were to do a Tekken Tag Tournament 3, how would rage arts factor into that? So far, the past two Tekken games has had basically a type of rage drive. Heat smash, rage drive. Same thing, just slightly different mechanic. Tekken Tag Tournament 3 would also want to introduce something like that as well. This is what Harada is talking about. The power crush system, the wall bounce system, the wall stagger system. All of these heavily layered mechanics being put into a tag game would be chaos. And at the start of Tekken 8, a lot of people were wondering if we can see a tag mode added into Tekken 8. And I have a clip here where they talk about why that would not be possible. And after, I want to finish off with what Harada says last.
So just about tag, please hold off on that. As we mentioned way back when we did tag 2, try to have 4 characters on screen at the same time. Obviously, it really limits your resources, so the stage would have to be really pared down to something that's not that immersive. So that's not really realistic at this point, at the moment, so please hold off on the tag comments for now.
Harada says it's not something we're currently really thinking of, because the direction we're going into is to try to have as many people enjoy the game as possible. But at the same time, maybe if we were to add a new idea rather than tag, it would be something like team battle or some other twist on the current game format. Now, this is what I always suggest to the developers as well, is instead of trying to relive the glory days or make a disaster into a success, why don't you just sit down at the drawing board and come up with something totally new and totally original? They are known for making legendary game modes. Why wouldn't they try that again? Why do we have to recycle old modes? Yes, those modes are great, but can't they come up with something new, something better, something that better incorporates all of these mechanics that we're using today? Like when you think about Tekken Ball, a lot of you guys said you love Tekken Ball past games, but when they put it into Tekken 8 with all of the heat systems and all of the new mechanics, it's not the same. The same way Tekken Ball wouldn't work in the new Tekken environment, you could say the same thing about a tag game not working with all of these wall blast and floor blast mechanics in the game. So they should come up with something totally brand new to satisfy those players who want that unique experience. And that's the direction I think they should go. So it's interesting seeing Harada saying what he's saying because I know the players are desperate for another tag game. But once again, I say it almost killed the franchise. We need something new. We need something fresh. If and when we get that, it will probably be after Tekken 9, which for those of you who don't know, Harada also said he wants to make one more Tekken game, then retire. Will he break the formula and do like a kind of crazy Tekken game on his way off? Or will he make Tekken 9 just kind of like the best of the best that he could possibly do and then leave? And then whoever takes over next can do the wacky game mode after the fact.